So we sort of paused here on the evolution of these tools, which we talked a little bit about. Do you guys want to comment at all?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of parallels the timeline that we showed previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, as I said, we started off with this kind of hybrid Excel tool and utilizing the Berkeley Center for Built Environment. They have a tool for kind of looking at thermal comfort, and we were sort of using those in conjunction. Then Chris created a Grasshopper tool.
Very hacky one.
Very hacky one, but that was kind of working. And that was really part of what led us to think, well, we really need something that's more of a graphic interface than just our Excel tool, which was doing an okay job, but really needed something a bit more. So we created a web tool that we put up on our website and made available to everyone. And then from that, we learned things like Chris mentioned, that there was a better way to look at downdraft than what we had originally known. And we could have probably improved our Grasshopper tool. And so we've come up kind of with a 2.0 version of both of those.
Okay. And so, yeah, so we're going to walk through at least what those individual parts were and some of like the struggles, how we decided to move to the next stage and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the first tool was kind of what Andrea described in the beginning, like a chart of just, if I have my window U value on my y-axis and my glazing ratio on my x-axis, can I find a point on this chart that makes me happy? And can I use this as like a way to find what's going to be comfortable for a given project? And while this, it was certainly useful on several projects, it kind of can start to break down once you start having different glazing types that may not fit on this chart, or different facade designs, or different sort of outdoor temperatures. And also another thing, if you go to the next slide, it was relying on this kind of hybrid of you had to plug in stuff in Excel to generate the chart first. And then at a certain point, you had to manually go over and plug in individual values in the Center for the Built Environment's web tool, and then bring those back over to the Excel. So it was a long process to generate one of these charts. And if
you go back a slide, just to kind of explain the chart. So, I mean, Chris did a good job, but it's actually view factor on the bottom. We started off with the goal of wanting to have it as % glazing, but because it's based on view factor, it wasn't really easy to do that way. And so we had to kind of come up with these like, well, if you're a punched window, it's this kind of column. If it's a ribbon window, these are some examples. And if you're fully height glazing, it's over here. And then those kind of swoopy curves, those are the thresholds at different outdoor temperatures. And so we needed different ones of those depending on different climates. And so it started to become a very multifaceted problem that wasn't really easily translated into an Excel chart.
Okay.
But amazingly, the one thing that this tool did do, which was surprising, is that it did all the geometric calculations in an Excel interface, which is just something that I thought was really impressive for Excel. Yeah. And actually, for all the knocking of Excel that I do, it's probably still the most widely used like BIM tool in the industry, just because everybody knows it. Yeah. But so after that, I mean, once I got the chance to look at least all the formulas and stuff under the hood, is that I hacked together in like a couple of days a Grasshopper version of this. And the nice thing about this was that it at least had everything in one place, that you didn't have to run over to the CBE tool. But it was very hacky, and at least, you could change the glazing ratios, but we really hadn't come up with that good of an interface yet. We were still sort of looking at what U value do you need at a certain distance, and it was maybe a little bit confusing if you have U value on the y-axis and then distance from the facade on the x-axis. But at least it gave us these visualizations. It gave us a little more freedom to play around with different things in a bit faster way. But it definitely was still going to be something that lived on my machine, that wasn't going to be used by a lot of people. I mean, there's a picture of the Grasshopper canvas up now, and this is, as you can kind of see, like most Grasshopper canvases, it's a mess. It's like not very clear to understand how things are working, and even though we tried to organize it with these like bars and stuff, it's a hack. It was,
And do you guys work a lot in Grasshopper or no?
Is there any Grasshopper people here? Don't be shy. Okay, all right.
Yeah, like the rest of you are candidates for some Black Spectacles tutorials. Shameless plug. Nice job. Thank you.
No problem.
That's funny.
But so after we had the kind of Grasshopper tool, and at least had something we can iterate through, we realized that we need to have something that we could like share, something that's like usable, something that is simple enough. Combining some of like the simple geometric calculations maybe of the Excel tool with the other things that were faster on the Grasshopper tool.
So were you able to plug in? You talked about this other, maybe it sounded like a database or something that you were connecting to. this thing here, the CBE.
The CBE tool.
Yeah.
So with this Grasshopper definition, were you connected to that as well?
So the thing is that we were using the Ladybug components, which actually, we were using the function to calculate human full body comfort is a really complex one because, not to get too nerdy here, but it has to do something called an energy balance, which involves iterating several times until you're at a comfortable temperature. So if you imagine I go into a hot room, it's going to take an hour or so for me to warm up and actually feel how comfortable I am in there. And so that's what this comfort model does, is that it runs, for each and every minute, keeps running a balance until it figures out, are you comfortable or not?
Okay.
And so that's a really complex, it's something you really can't do in Excel unless you use their scripting interfaces. And that's why we were jumping over to the Center for the Built Environments tool to do that calculation for us, because they had that pretty intense one there. But with Ladybug, I had actually taken 2 years ago, taken that CBE tools function and put it into a component in Grasshopper, so that we can now easily do that all within the interface.
So you were doing the calculations within that
Python component, yeah.
Okay.
So that's why everything can be in one place. We can iterate fast. You don't have to jump over to the Center for the Built Environments tool.
Okay.
And just in case anyone doesn't know Ladybug, Ladybug is a plugin for Grasshopper that allows you to do climate analysis and comfort and other analysis, just in case you aren't familiar.
Yep. And energy, and there's an insect honeybee that does energy analysis and daylight analysis. And sorry, that was a shameless plug.